This morning, we're going to have a look now at what's making headlines in the international press. Florence Villeminot is back. Good morning again, Florence. Of course, the Panama Papers lead much of the world press. It's been 6 days now, and this story will not go away. David Cameron, of course, in hot water after admitting that he did profit from an offshore company.
That's right. Let's take a look at the British papers. It's really the leading story today. The front page of the Daily Telegraph says it all. I did have money offshore. After 3 days of stalling and 4 partial denials, David Cameron finally confessed, and he is drawing a lot of criticism for the way he handled the whole thing. In another article in the Daily Telegraph by John McTernan, this article lashes out at him for his disastrous mishandling of the crisis. And this article starts by saying, in life, you only get one chance to make a first impression. In politics, you only get one chance to make a full and frank disclosure. And this was a textbook example of what not to do.
And there are, of course, now calls for the British Prime Minister to resign, Florence.
That's right. Let's take a look at another article, this time in The Independent by Kirsty Major. You can see after finally admitting that he did have a stake in his father's offshore fund, Cameron needs to resign, and quickly. This time, the hypocrisy has gone too far. Now, lots of cartoons in the British press as well, mocking the Prime Minister for sticking with The Independent. You can see this one. You can see Cameron wearing this sweater stuffed with cash. And on it, it says, my father went to Panama and all I got was this lousy, in very small letters, it says equity fund in Jersey. And another cartoon, this time in The Guardian, where you can see Cameron doing his best to convince people, trust me, I don't have a trust fund.
Poor David Cameron. The Guardian, of course, reporting also, Florence, on an interesting link between the Panama Papers and the art world.
That's right. This is an interesting link, interesting angle that I haven't seen anywhere else. You can see The Guardian here talking about the billion-dollar art collection. The Panama Papers revealed enough art in private collections to fill a museum. And among the pieces, you can see them here. That you have the Les Femmes d'Alger right in the center there by Pablo Picasso, Venus by Modigliani in the lower left-hand corner, pieces by Monet, Van Gogh. Really impressive collection. And according to The Guardian, the Panama Papers have shown to what extent art is becoming a really interesting commodity for many rich people across the world.
Now, there was another story making the headlines this morning in the world's press, Florence, and that is the result of Wednesday's referendum in the Netherlands. Voters there decided to reject an EU partnership deal to remove trade barriers with Ukraine.
That's right. It was really surprising for many politicians in the Netherlands. Let's take a look at this article in De Volkskrant, a paper in the Netherlands. Essentially, the deal was rejected by 61% of voters, so quite a lot. The turnout was very low, though, it must be said, but it was just over the threshold for it to be valid. This article says that on a political level, it's a real defeat for the establishment, and on a society level, it's a real defeat for cosmopolitan Dutch people, and it's a big victory for Euro-skeptics who actually forced the government to hold the referendum in the first place by organizing a petition. If we take a look at the Ukrainian papers, it's a different story. The editorial here in the Kiev Post says it's undemocratic to derail an agreement involving 540 million citizens. Those are the 500 million citizens of the EU plus the 40 million citizens of Ukraine, because 2.4 million people in the Netherlands decided to derail this agreement. And this article is very defiant and says that essentially Ukraine is on a path to closer negotiations and relations with the EU, and it's not this referendum that's going to stop it.
Many people saying, Florence, that the Dutch referendum should serve as a warning to the European Union.
That's right. Even though it is non-binding, this referendum, it is a warning. Let's take a look at the editorial in the Wall Street Journal here. It says that, mainstream leaders in the Netherlands were surprised, but it's actually their fault because they didn't explain to people what's really at stake with this agreement. They need to explain more to voters what's going on in the EU. And L'Opinion, the French business paper, pro-business, pro-European paper, is also alarmed by what's going on. You can see it says that Europe is starting to rip apart at the seams, and the timing, of course, is very interesting because the Brexit referendum is just over a month away.
Many papers now also, especially American ones, looking at the American political campaigns, with tensions rising in the Democratic Party ahead of the April 19th primary.
That's right. The Washington Post says the contest between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders is growing increasingly nasty, and there are growing concerns within the party that their rivalry could do some lasting damage. Now, both are busy campaigning in New York. Hillary Clinton took the subway yesterday. The New York Times reports that her MetroCard adventure didn't go as well as she planned, though. You can see it says swipe, wince, repeat. Now, this is something that people who take the subway in New York City experience on a daily basis, and she experienced that yesterday. She had to swipe 5 times before being able to get into the subway. What's interesting is the New York Times reports about Bernie Sanders and the subway as well. He says the last time he took the subway was about a year ago, and it required a token, which is very wrong, according to the New York Times. And while we're talking about Bernie Sanders, do check out this article. It's a fascinating article and series in the Washington Post about the eating habits of presidential candidates. And Bernie Sanders, as you can discover in this article, likes smoothies, Pinot Noir, and tandoori pork. And the Washington Post wonders, does that make him a foodie?
Yes, of course, you are what you eat. So there's lots to be learned there. Thank you very much indeed, Florence Vimino. Look there at what the international press is saying this Friday morning. It is 27 minutes past 9. A quick break, and I'll be right back with the headlines.